My co-host for today's session is Ms. Luisa Fernanda, Vice President for International Affairs at University of Rosario. The inaugural session of the JGU Rosario Web Conversation Series focuses on international academic collaborations between India and Latin America. Our distinguished speakers for today's event are Professor Dr. Sergio Pulgarin, Vice President and Provost of University of Rosario, and Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, Founding Vice Chancellor, OP Jindal Global University, and Dean, Jindal Global Law School. Professor Kumar holds a Bachelor of Civil Laws degree from University of Oxford, where he was a Rhodes Scholar. He was a Landon Gammon Fellow at Harvard University, from where he obtained his Master of Laws. He was awarded his doctorate from the University of Hong Kong. Professor Kumar is a distinguished legal scholar and has written extensively on human rights issues, governance, and corruption. Professor Rajkumar has devoted himself to reimagining and reshaping higher education in India. It is under Professor Kumar's guidance that OP Jindal Global University has become the youngest university to be ranked in the 751-800 band in QS World Rankings. Professor Kumar's vision of internationalizing higher education has resulted in OP Jindal Global University to establish hundreds of academic and research collaborations with top institutions around the globe. I welcome you, sir. I would now request my co-host, Ms. Luisa, to say a few words and introduce Professor Sergio Pulgarin.
Well, good morning and welcome to the first Jindal Global University and Universidad Rosario Conversation series in the international academic collaboration between India and Latin America. We are very, very happy to share this space as well as having this academic cooperation with Jindal University. I would like to welcome all the participants in this meeting and to thank Professor Dr. Rajkumar for making part of this very interesting initiative. I would like also to introduce Professor Dr. Sergio Pulgarin, our Vice President and Provost. He's a Doctor of Philosophy in Management Science and Master in Management and Business Administration from Universidad del Rosario. His excellent and high academic performance have earned him various awards in his career as a student and as a professor, among which is recognition as a distinguished professor at the Universidad del Rosario. In addition to his current participation as an international visiting professor at the SEPT program at the University of Leipzig in Germany. As former Director of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness at Universidad del Rosario, Dr. Pulgarin led the construction and deployment of the Integral Development Plan of the university. Welcome, Dr. Pulgarin, and thank you for joining us today in this academic space. Finally, I consider relevant to mention some aspects about the agreement between Universidad del Rosario and Jindal University, whose initiative was born during the Ibero-American International Law Week, developed annually in The Hague, Netherlands, and led by the International Law Research Group of Universidad del Rosario. It was promoted by Dr. Enrique Prieto, a professor of our law school, who established a dialogue with Professor Kasim Balarab from Jindal, and after identifying common interests, facilitated a dialogue between universities leaders who decided to subscribe the agreement in 2019. Also, I would like to give special thanks to the law school from Universidad del Rosario for their leadership in this process. After this short intervention, I would like to give the word to Dr. Professor Rajkumar, and thank you.
Thank you, Luisa. I extend my warm welcome to Professor Sergio. We have chosen a conversational format for today's session, where Professor Rajkumar and Professor Pulgarin will first discuss their views on the role and potential of international academic collaborations between the two institutions, and then take some time to interact with each other before we open the floor for questions from our audience. If you're watching us live on YouTube, please feel free to jot down your questions in the YouTube chat box, and we would try to answer as many questions as possible towards the end of this session. I would now request Professor Raj to commence the discussion.
Well, very good morning to all of you. First of all, let me extend my heartiest greetings from OP Jindal Global University and India. I am most excited to have this conversation with our friends from Universidad de Rosario. I wish I can pronounce your university better. I am also grateful to all of you, particularly Dr. Sergio Pulgarin, but of course, Luisa Fernanda, and your president and other, office bearers of the International Affairs Office, but also the law school and other schools, to really bring all of us together to have this conversation. I hope, let me begin by saying that the world is facing an extraordinary crisis when all of us, as members of the academic community, have come together to do what we have always been deeply committed to doing. And that also shows the strength, the resilience, and the passion, the commitment, the dedication of all of us in relation to what the kind of responsibility that we have for the future. I sincerely hope that all of you, including your family members and others, are safe and healthy and are able to overcome this crisis. I know for sure that both Latin America, many parts of Latin America, but also many parts of South Asia, including India, are seeing an extraordinary challenge in the form of COVID-19. There are cases that, as we speak, are increasing, and all our governments and collectively the humanity is trying to respond to it. But then it's also important for us to recognize the role of universities today. I think one of the remarkable evolutions, particularly in recent times, is the fact that if there is one particular institution, social institution, that has withstood this crisis and have responded to far more effectively than any other institution, including, I dare say, corporations, companies, business enterprises, even government agencies, is education and education institutions. All of us know that the last 4 months have been extremely difficult, if not almost impossible for us to handle. But keeping in mind the interest of our students and the role and responsibility that we have undertaken, we have adapted to this situation. Many of us, including I'm sure your university, but also our university, very quickly moved into online education. We reimagined the curriculum, the courses, the program. We empowered our faculty, created new forms of engagement through online education, developed new forms of grading, assessment, examination, and ultimately enabled our students even to complete their degree programs. And that showed and demonstrated an extraordinary degree of resilience at a time when the world has been facing a crisis of this magnitude. That's the first thing I want to say. So congratulations to you. I want to appreciate your leadership, your institutional resilience to work in the best interest of the students. I want to thank the teachers, the faculty members, and the administrative staff who have worked in a tireless manner to keep their interest of students paramount even during these difficult times. Second, I want to say that I'm most excited about this conversation because it's one of our deep failures in our country, in India, and also our institution, that we have never been able to build a substantive partnership with universities in Latin America. In fact, it is that part of the world, very unfortunately, most of us in India know so little. And most of our historic imagination has been confined, when you look at the Western world, to look at Europe, North America, Canada, confined to United States, and on this side, Australia and other countries, maybe in Southeast Asia. And when we look at the developing world, our larger focus at best has been mostly in Africa, a little bit in Middle East, parts of South Asia and Southeast Asia. Somehow, very unfortunately, our historical imagination and focus has never been in Latin America, let alone the specific countries within Latin America. So I am very, very excited about what both our universities are doing, both in terms of the kind of international partnerships and collaborations that we plan to build, and also to be able to create a new framework for this partnership. In this regard, let me also say that there is something to be said about these types of partnerships, particularly universities coming together. India is an old civilization and a young country. While 1.38 billion people are in our country, that's the number 1.38 billion. But what many people may not know is that we have 850 million people in India who are less than 35 years of age. 850 million people who are less than 35 years of age, which means that we are a young country. When the life expectancy has increased to 72 in India, most parts of the Western world will become older. Most parts of Eastern world will also become older. India will be younger and will be younger for a longer time. It is also important for us to recognize that we are a democracy, a fiercely argumentative democracy, which comes with all kinds of challenges with regard to doing things. But that also is an opportunity by which India celebrates diversity and pluralism that is deeply embedded in our democratic, political, and civic culture. And that also means that the young people of India need to engage with the world at large, as I believe they will be shaping the future of the world. So I believe that the young people of Latin America will also be shaping the future of the world, and it is important for them to get to know India. For it is important for them to be able to engage with not only the world's largest democracy, but also a democracy that is is dealing with some of the most fundamental challenges of our times. So in a way, I want to end my introductory observations by saying that the collaboration that we are envisaging today between both our universities and both our countries and broadly both the regions of the world is a very important collaboration, not only because of the opportunities that it poses and it creates for students, but also for faculty when it comes to looking at issues relating to comparative understanding of both our societies. I strongly believe that there are numerous parallels in our society where joint research, including joint visits by faculty and joint engagement in the form of joint conferences leading to joint publications, all of this is possible as we look at the future. It's important that young Indians and young Latin Americans, including young graduates of your own university, need to come together to respond to the type of world that we are going to inherit. Issues relating to climate change, migration, terrorism, national security, human development, poverty, and many other fundamental challenges that the world is going to face is going to be responded to more effectively by developing a deeper sense of multilateralism in which, universities, but also countries need to come together. At a time when many parts of the world are facing a crisis of a myopic thinking and vision in which values of multilateralism, values of pluralism, values of diversity are challenged at both political and societal level, it's important for universities to demonstrate leadership. And that's exactly what both our universities are doing. And I am very delighted to be part of this conversation and indeed this collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Raj.
Thank you, Professor Rajkumar.
I would now invite Professor Pulgarin to give his introductory remarks, preliminary remarks on this conversation.
Okay, thank you very much for all of you. So first of all, thank you for Professor Rajkumar for his generous introduction about our university and on our relationship. So, well, first of all, I would like to talk a little bit about what is happening right now in Latin America in regard of the pandemic, right? Which actually is very interesting because we got several points of commons in the way as our country and our institutions, and also so your institutions, are dealing with all the challenges related with the pandemic. So in regard of the Universidad de Rosario, what we are leading right now is in a huge and actually a huge and a broad strategy related with innovation in regard of the classes, in regard of the research, in regard of the way of our students are improving their capabilities and also their skills. And what happens right now is that in some point as university and actually as a country, maybe for this, this resilience that you point out before, maybe in some point as university, we decide to understand this pandemic more than an opportunity rather than a challenges. And this is a very, very important point. Actually, in my opinion, it is a break point because in that moment, the university decide to understand how are the possibilities and also the ways, to create and improve and a strong structure related to provide to the market and provide to our students as an institution a new different way to do our classes. And this is also important because I guess that Professor Rakumar has the same challenges in the university. For example, here we got some sort of professors which actually are older, which actually are very, very familiar with the traditional way to do in their classes. And actually, these professors have to shift fastly just without 1 week, maybe, to change the way of traditional doing their classes and moving out to a new way to do it, using a computer, using, well, some interfaces like Zoom and so on, right? So this is one of the points that I would like to highlight. The second point, which actually is very, very important to us in regard to improve the relationship with you, is because the university is moving right now to strengthen the relationship between the South and South countries. In this case, the relation with India and also with another countries of the South of the global world. So, well, we know that countries like India nowadays has some strong relations with countries, for example, in South America, like Brazil, Ecuador, Chile, Peru. So that's the reason because right now we are so excited to establish this link with you and also to know that, the opportunity to have the chance to improve this link in different ways to do it. So in regard of your position, Professor, what is happening right now in Colombia is that, and actually this is a South American concern, what is happening right now in our country is that the population is going older and older. Actually, the last information about the local government in regard of population is that, that population is moving actually faster than we planned before about this idea of older population. However, we still have a strong population of young people, which actually is still moving in these processes of education, our professional education. This is what we call the process here in Colombia. And also our students right now are more interested than ever to improve the possibility to have, different ways to establish international relation with universities in actually different in different ways to do it. One of example of it is what we are doing right now in regard of our e-certificates, for example. So what the university is doing right now is to creating these certificates in order to group a group of credits earning subjects that lead participants to obtain an international certificate based on the subject area selected, composed by the regular courses that we have in our university, and another MOOCs and cross-cultural dialogues. Another example of it is related with the e-mobility. which actually is very successful right now because the pandemic conditions. So nowadays we got in a university a strategy that we call internationalization for all of our students. As you know, well, in the case of Colombia, maybe you know that uh, our money has a strong differences with the exchange with the dollar, right? So because of that, there's a strong boundaries in regard of internationalization processes of our students. So that's the reason, because as university, we decide to create a new ways to let our students the chance to have an internationalization experience. And this is very, very important in regard of e-mobility, because information technology nowadays let us to create this idea in our students in order to have the chance to connect with international population, to connect with international students, to establish an international relationships, just using the computer. And this is pretty amazing for a country like our country, right? Another strategy that we are doing right now moves around the idea of COIL method. And this is very, very interesting to us because a couple of years ago, actually in 2018, we developed a kind of a new such a type of a strategy called uh, called plus. I'm trying to do the translation to English because in Spanish it's a little bit tricky, but we call in English like plus rooms. It's a little similar like that. So what we did is to introduce a kind of innovation in our classrooms, and those innovations are related with for example, integrate some sort of cameras, some sort of TVs, some sort of connectivity in regard to improve the COIL experience with our students. And actually nowadays, we have a very interesting examples about their experience in regard of COIL. One of them was developed with the American University at Del Cairo, and it actually was very interesting because the results, our students have the chance to interact with the students of Cairo, also have the chance to have a co-learning processes between the professors of the University of Cairo and our university. And what we are doing right now is also to, improve the number of these experiences and also improve the quality of these experiences. So just because you mentioned that you have a several of young population in your university, well, this is the chance to introduce these kind of opportunities between our communities. So that's my point, and thank you very much for the chance.
Thank you, Professor Bulgarin. I would now request Professor Raj and Professor Bulgarin to maybe have an interactive session on what you think would be the possible benefits of collaboration between these two regions and how our universities can play a leading role in that.
All right. Thank you, Malvika, and thank you, Luisa, as well. Thank you, Dr. Bulgarin, for your very thoughtful comments about how we have all, as universities, evolved during these very difficult times. Let me say that, one of the things that we have, now I note that you have a very long history and tradition as a university, and we are relatively young. We are an 11-year-old university, and we have all the startup mindset in all of us when we're doing what we do. But that comes with its own challenges, but also I have realized that during this critical time, we have been able to do many things that relatively older universities in India, at least, have not been able to do it. And that has been our strength as well. But be that as it may, building on what Malvika and Luisa have envisaged for us, I would say that the first and foremost thing I can think of is that we need to develop a deeper sense of knowledge, understanding, and awareness between and among both our students about the respective regions and countries that we are. I think it's important that we do that, and I believe this relationship and partnership will help us. And in that framework, we should be thinking in terms of joint lecture series and joint workshops and things like that, which can bring both our countries and regions and, of course, universities together. The second thing I can think of is, now that's a knowledge sharing and knowledge dissemination and knowledge partnership. We have, as some you might be aware, we have 9 different schools at our university. We have a law school, a business school, a school of international affairs, a school of public policy, a school of liberal arts, a school of journalism, a school of architecture, a school of banking and finance, and a school of environment and sustainability. And we are in the process of building the 10th school, which will be launched late this year. And that is the Jindal School of Psychology and Counseling. So with that, broad set of schools, and as you have noticed, we are a non-STEM, non-medicine university. We have the full gamut of humanities and social sciences and liberal arts. So from our standpoint, I believe that students could be richly benefited by the kind of mobility-based programs that we can think of, which include student exchanges, dual degree type programs, as well as what I would call short-term study abroad and immersion type programs. We would love to do that with your university, and of course, have your students visit India and of course be part of what we are doing here. That's on the student side, which is focused a lot more on mobility, but also immersion as well. And of course, dual degree and dual certification. On the faculty side, we should also build on that, because that is actually, more substantive and more longitudinal in many ways. And so I would say we should be looking at joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, and even joint research projects that our faculty can jointly undertake and seek as well. This initiative can be best promoted with the idea of a joint conference, which I believe can be done with a view to developing an intellectual partnership between both our faculty members. I also think that, and just as we are doing today, we should not make COVID-19 undermine our effort to build this partnership. In fact, we should use this opportunity where virtual engagement of the kind that we are talking now can be elevated to the next level, wherein more and more faculty level interactions are happening, even though it may be at a small level. We need to do it more. We should continue the conversation so that we can even think in terms of how, as we look at the future, more substantive opportunities, including travel and mobility-based opportunities, can be created for our students and faculty. I also think that in relation to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, both our universities should be looking at how we can partner in advancing the cause of universities playing a leadership role in fulfilling the United Nations aspirations of Sustainable Development Goals. And that means that fashioning a response, but more importantly, developing a vision, an institutional vision that will bring together other universities in Latin America from your side, and I would say other universities in India and South Asia from our side. This should enable us to develop a Latin America, South Asia dialogue on sustainable development goals and the role of universities in advancing and fulfilling the cause of SDGs. In fact, one of the remarkable things about a good university, which I believe both of us are, is its ability to not only look at current crisis and respond to it effectively, but also help enable society to prepare for future potential crisis and provide institutional leadership, research capacities, and even intellectual agenda setting role in which some of the big issues of our future can be discussed in a more collaborative and multilateral manner. I believe there is an opportunity for both our universities to assume that leadership role, and the partnership that we are envisaging between both our institutions can advance that vision. I would like to stop here and invite Dr. Sergio to say a few words on that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
thank you very much again. So, well, first of all, I would like to discuss a little bit about our students community. And what is actually common in Latin America in regard of students is that the students only have this idea, well, at least in a broadly point of view, the students have this idea that the only opportunities for internationalizations around the world are in the United States and in some specific countries in Europe. And actually, I don't know what's the reason. I mean, maybe the reason will be related with these strong influences for the North American culture in Colombia and actually in South America, but the strong influences also for European culture. So what actually as a university we're doing right now is to, to amplify this idea of war in our students. And in my opinion, this is one of the most important chances to do it. I mean, for example, in regard of India, there is a strong opportunities to develop, for example, research, for example, technology transferences, innovations, and so on. But the main concern is that many of our students and also our researchers don't know the potential. And the reason because don't know the potential maybe is the distance. What is common here in Colombia, and actually I usually joke with some colleagues, is that, for $100 in Colombia, you just can't travel by flight, but to just to the next city, right? In Europe, for $100 or for 100 euros, you can travel for another country. And this is some strong differences which actually impact our culture and our idea to understand the world. Actually, in my case, I was, I was born in a home, in a home which my parents usually think that that was very, very difficult to travel to another country. I mean, it was just a dream. The first time that I traveled to the United States, my parents says like, oh my God, this is pretty amazing. This is the first time that someone in the family goes out of the country. And this is quite common in some part of our country. So because of that, what we are doing right now, and actually we are doing for a couple of years, is try to show to our students that out there is a bigger world rather than United States and Europe, right? And because of that, this is the way as we are being introducing these different strategies related with internationalization processes. So what I would like to share with you also is that a couple of years ago, actually, our president, Dr. Alejandro Chainem, traveled to India, right? And he did it because he's part of maybe you know this organization. It's an organization called ACBSP. Actually, the travel of our president was in March of 2019, and he visited some cities. New Delhi was one of them, Kochi, and again he traveled to India because he was the world chair of a CVSP accreditation agency, right? So it was pretty amazing experience because when our president came back to our country, he explained us about the amazing research, the amazing technology centers, and what is so important to me in my case, the amazing developments related with entrepreneurship and also businesses. And in my opinion, this is a very important point to link in regard to your country and our countries, because because part of the solution of the new economy, of what we call the new reality for the pandemic, is how the economies will be recovered. And in my opinion, the only way to do it is related with entrepreneurship. Is how we work with our students in different fields. I mean, it's not just related with management or businesses. I don't know I don't know the numbers in India, but at least in Colombia, what is so interesting is that the most entrepreneurs are population related with programs different than business administrations. Actually, the several entrepreneurs in our country are engineers, are lawyers, are also architects, and so on. But just a few of them are professionals related with business administrations and so on. So I found, sorry, and a very interesting link and a very interesting opportunity in regard of improve the entrepreneurship skills, entrepreneurship abilities, and also entrepreneurship linkages between your university and our university. And again, because in my opinion, this is the opportunity to let the world understand the importance of entrepreneurship in regard to improve and develop economies.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sergio. I think, I share many aspects and perspectives that you just now mentioned, including the possibility of entrepreneurship and aspects of it developing together. In fact, I also share with you that distance does create some degree of challenges with regard to these type of relationships. But I do believe at a time when opportunities of conversations are possible through different platforms and mediums, and the fact that we have committed ourselves to creating a more diversified global engagement, it is only appropriate that we can use this opportunity to build partnerships of the kind that we are envisaging today. I also want to say that we need to recognize that the young people of the future are going to be needing skill sets that will go beyond their knowledge and expertise that a university alone can teach. And that's where partnerships and collaborations and teamwork and even cultural understanding of the other becomes important. I also know that, I think one of the remarks from a cultural standpoint, I do believe many countries in Latin America, including Colombia, the cultures resonate very closely with the many cultures of Asia, including South Asia and definitely India. So it's an incredible opportunity that we can together be giving to our students to be able to do things together as well. But at the same time, I also feel that as institutions, if we make a commitment to building this partnership, we also need to work together, because I have also noticed that many collaborations and MOUs that get signed by many universities end up becoming paper tigers, not even paper tigers, more like paper cats. They just are, not, leading to any, conclusion of any kind. They are at best photo opportunities for the presidents and vice chancellors to have, but nothing comes out of it. So I'm very happy that we conceived of this relationship during the COVID time. We signed up our relationship during the COVID time. And now we have begun our first interaction during COVID time. And that shows not only the resilience of us as institutions, but also the enormous commitment and promise that this partnership holds for the future as well. So I would like to say that we will make this work. And from our own institutional standpoint, we will leave no stone unturned to ensure that we build substantive, collaborative partnerships with your university on specific aspects that will lead to meaningful, activities and initiatives. Now, of course, in our view, and we have done this probably, when I look at many institutions in India and around the world, we ended up doing it at some level. We were very fortunate to have done it well. So we have always envisaged there are broadly 10 types of partnerships and collaborative activities that we have done. And I would like to quickly articulate that. And we can do a few of them in it, depending upon what our possible interest is. And it doesn't need to be all of them together. It can be phased out. It can be, it can vary with scope and intensity. And these include faculty exchange, student exchange, joint teaching, joint research, joint conferences, joint publications, dual degree programs, short-term study abroad programs, inward mobility immersion programs, and joint executive education programs. 10 different partnerships we have done with several universities, not all the 10 with one university, but within the 10, 2 or 3 or 4, depending upon the type of interest that prevails. But in some ways, I want to say that we need to work together to make this possible. Because, as I said before, historically, the unfortunate situation is that there has not been much interest envisaged, not because people are not interested, but because people have not been given opportunity. People have not created imagination. People have not shared such a possibility. And once such things emerge, I am very confident that more and more people will be interested to know more about Colombia and more about Latin American countries, but more importantly, actually seize the opportunity that this collaboration between both our universities provide for.
Okay, well, first of all, I would like to ask you to have the chance to, to know the 10 different ways to collaboration, because my writing is so slow sometimes.
Sure.
Actually,
All right.
But what I would like to share with you in this moment is, well, when we started with Luisa in 2018, the design of what will be our strategic planning in regard of the university, we decided to, to bring the university until 2025. And one of the points that we discussed actually in that moment with Lisa is about the international collaboration and also relation with universities. And what I mentioned to Lisa in that moment is exactly what you were mentioning to us. I mean, it's not about to having 1,000 of MOUs in the university, which actually is a common practices in our university. And actually, several of universities in Colombia usually shows that indicator. I mean, I got 165 MOUs with a broad of universities around the world, right? But the thing is, how many initiatives are currently running right now in regard of this MOU? And the answer is 0, 1, in the best cases 2. So what we discussed with Lisa is the way to create a kind of a smart relationship. Actually, that's the way as we call this strategy. What we have to create right now is a kind of a smart relationship with universities around the world, which actually moves around this idea to improve the portfolio and increase the portfolio. I mean, it's not about to having a thousand of relations with university. Is about to having a couple of relations with a couple of universities, but at the same time with a broad portfolio. So what you mentioned before actually is pretty interesting to us, because this is what we are looking right now in our international partners, right? And the second thing to point out is about what we understand right now in our university about the new university, the new model. From our side, what is happening right now is because the pandemic, the university have the need to, to move in a new such a type of structure. So what is happening right now in Colombia, actually is happening in this moment, is that Colombia is moving again to the is what we call the presential mode. I don't remember the word in English actually, but is the population is moving right now to the streets, is what happening right now. So in this moment, the university and also the local government is deciding which type of processes and regulation goes around the idea that the students goes again back to the classes. So what our university did right now is to a huge investment in order to adapt our university, our facilities in this new type of university, which actually is a mixture between the virtual and the presential, right? It means that nowadays we have 184 classrooms full of technology, with cameras, with TVs, with full of technology, which led the university to have at the same time virtual and presential classes, right? So the thing is right now, because the university did this investment, the model changed. For the future, and for the short future and the long future, our university will be for sure virtual and presential at the same time. So the thing is, okay, because the university have this structure right now, the question is how we can use this technology in order to improve our relations, right? So this is, in regard of that, we are been thinking with some colleagues, and actually with part of my team, in this idea of what we call born global programs. And this is very interesting because part of my idea is to introduce a kind of restriction. Well, it's not a restriction, it's a kind of boundary of our program design, in order to let that all programs that the university creates since now should start being a born global program. It doesn't matter the elite, right? In this case, for example, India for sure will be a good ally in this case, right? But because nowadays we got this opportunity, because nowadays we got this technology in regard of our facilities, and also in regard of our pedagogical model, is because it's possible to have these opportunities in a easier way. It's also a cultural approach. Nowadays, the people in Colombia understood that it's actually possible to have meetings, to take decisions, to support new ideas just using a computer. And this is actually challenging to us. Universidad del Rosario has a very particular structure, because we have what we call a multi-campus structure. I mean, in Bogota, Universidad del Rosario have 7 different campuses around the city, and well, we don't have the same problems with traffic jam as New Delhi, but actually we have a strong problems of traffic jams. I mean, between the difference between some of our facilities will be in traveling in a car will take more than hour and a half, which actually is very difficult to our students to move between one campus and another campus. But what is happening right now is that our students understood that it's possible to understand, to have a class using these tools, And because the technology that we have right now is possible to connect our university just using those rooms, those classrooms that I mentioned before. And we can also extend, and because nowadays our students understand that it's possible to have classes using this technology, now it's very, very easier to extend this possibility. So for example, with your university, right? So just to summarize the ideas, for me, it's very, very, very important, your 10 points, because it show me in a different ways and in a very, very specific ways to have the chance to collaboration with you.
Dr. Sergio, and I gathered that we are receiving lots of questions on YouTube. So, Malvika, how do you want to do this? You want to raise it, or you got the questions, right?
I would also request our audience who's joined us on the Zoom chat, if they have any questions, we'd love to hear from you as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to go through some of the comments and congratulatory messages that we have received on YouTube, as well as some of the observations that have been made by our audience. So we have received congratulatory messages from Dr. Isa Otis Reed, William Andre Roja, Giselle Volkov, and we have an interesting observation which has been made by Mr. Om Prakash Shagani, according to whom there has been little engagement between India and Latin America because of the language barrier. So as our speakers already mentioned about the distance which creates a certain time barrier between the two regions, the language barrier is also there. So if we could hear from either Professor Rajkumar or Professor Sergio about what could be, how we could overcome these language barriers and how we could develop probably more collaborative learning courses for both of our students, where we can go ahead and move out of these issues which are created by the difference in our languages. It would be wonderful to hear your suggestions on that.
Dr. Sergio, you want to take it, or I can?
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Rakumar. Well, this is a huge concern actually in our university. Well, our university is a humanistic university. This is how we describe our university. So the languages is quite important in our learning model, and through the and actually this is a culture with moves through the university, right? So because of that, we got a strong structure in order to support the development of second languages in our students. Actually, we are not just supporting second languages, but also third languages. So some important part of our students speaks English and also speaks an extra languages like French, like Italian, and so on, right? So, well, this is a really challenging in a country which has in a low rate of is in a low rate of second languages persons. I mean, the country is being improving, you know, this rate. And the reason, and the basic reason, is because Spanish is the second largest language speaking around the world. That's the main reason. So in general manner, the people don't have, you know, don't have the necessity to speak a second language. However, and again, because this is a real concern of our university, we got again very strong strategies related with that. So one of them is the university has an area which is called actually the English area, which is designed to advise and also provide some courses and education to our students in order to improve improve their skills in a second languages. Also, the second languages is a requirement to have the degree in our university, in the health careers, right? So this is very important because even when any students finish their classes, the students cannot have the degree if they don't have the certificate. In this case, the certificate would be the IELTS or TOEFL certificate. Those are possible to have in a university, but it's a requirement in order to have the degree, right? So through the curricula, we create the opportunities to let the students to improve their skills, their English skills, and also to have the chance to having the certificate. And that's the reason, because at least in regard of the certificates, the whole of our students, which actually right now we have roughly in undergrad, we have roughly 10,000 students, and in postgrad, we have roughly 3,200 maybe students, right? It creates a university of 13,000 students, which actually I mean, in regard of the population of Colombia, this is a huge number. In regard of India, maybe it will be a small university, but 13,000 students is in a big university in our country. So the thing is, it's all of our students, all of our 13,000 students have the requirement to have a second languages in different levels. Actually, you know, it is also related with the basic education of our country. You know that in Colombia, we got strong differences between the levels of education, because we have a public education, but also we have a private education. And actually it's more common, the private education, rather than the public ones, right? Actually, the same thing happened in university education. There's just a couple of public universities and a broad set of universities in a private education. And because several of the education is private, there is a strong differences between the models, between the schools, and between also the levels of English in our students. So what is common is to find students with a basic skills or with the minimum skills to have a B2 qualification in the IELTS, but also we have a sort of students, we have a strong English level skills related with their basic school, or also related with personal conditions, because their families are or lives out of Colombia, or so on, right? So that's my point.
We have another question from Hamid Jamal Khan. So he's asking how these collaborations in the study model can lead to more collaborations related to placements and future career prospects in Latin American region for Indian students.
So, sorry, I can't hear you, sorry.
How the study collaborations could lead to creation of prospects of placements and career opportunities for Indian students in Latin American region.
Well, I guess there is a different possibilities to do it from my side. One of it is related again what I mentioned, sorry, before, about the entrepreneurship. I guess entrepreneurship is a very interesting link to create this kind of relation for many reasons, because for sure there is a full of entrepreneurs in India looking for opportunities in Latin America. And what is so important to point out is that Colombia, because their strategic position, is a very interesting link to the South America. I mean, actually is the access door to South America, right? And also, I guess it's the same thing in regard of India. I mean, India is a huge market, is a strong market, has strong possibilities, and also strong needs in regard of new products and new business opportunities. So the future of these kind of relations will be signed, but the idea of entrepreneurship collaboration in two ways. In the way to share technology and innovation and methodologies. I mean, the way as entrepreneurship cluster develop entrepreneurs in India, and in the way to do it, that how can you how you can share these methodologies and transfer this technology to us in order to improve the quality of our entrepreneurships. And also, since Colombia to India, we got several developments related with entrepreneurship. I don't know if you know, but in Colombia nowadays, we got 2 unicorns. Actually, we are the second country in South America which have the most number of unicorns in regard of entrepreneurship. I mean, there is a political structure related with entrepreneurship in Colombia. Actually, we got a law of entrepreneurship in Colombia. And the chance to do it through our university is just for a simple reason. Universidad del Rosario is one of the oldest university in South America, I guess. So our university has 366 years, right, of knowledge of participation in the creation of our country, and also in a different type of entrepreneurs around our country. So we have full of knowledge about how to do it, how to be part of the market, how to introduce new products and new opportunities in regard of the market, right? The other one is related with sharing research, sharing professors, and also sharing opportunities of international exchange or international also businesses with our students. So that's what I think.
We are almost out of time, but I would request to hear from Professor Raj on Professor Enrique's suggestion related to collaborative courses, which is something that we have been quite actively discussing with the University of Rosario. How you think we could develop these courses, and which areas you believe it would be most effective in for our 2 institutions?
Thank you so much, Malvika. In fact, one of the things that Dr. Sergio said, we all need to recognize that, because this crisis has provided new ways and opportunities for us to do things together. While we've always had a bit of online-based engagement, but nothing had prepared us to do what we are now doing. I mean, I just had a sort of a Zoom call with over 100 people. We recently just completed a global virtual conference, which I believe had some 10,000 people attending in 75 different countries, participants. So the opportunity to do things together is phenomenal in the online context. So I would say one of the relatively easiest things that we should consider doing is to actually build a partnership where we actually do an online course where 2 of our faculty members, one from Jindal and one from your university, should partner, and we do a joint sort of a course which will be listed as a cross-listed elective, and have your students and our students take it as an elective, and that might just be a very good starting point using the online education framework. I mean, we are very comfortable with Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and we would love to do something together, and that will be a very interesting one, because we would have done something quite substantive where a joint teaching possibility can be done using the current online education framework, and then work towards doing many more things in the future as well.
Thank you, Professor Raj. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues from University of Rosario, of course, Professor Raj and Professor Sergio Pulgarin, for taking out the time for convening this meeting, for having this wonderful, informative discussion. I would also like to extend my thanks to Professor Qasim Balapre, Professor Enrique, and Professor Srijit for guiding and spearheading this collaboration. I would like to thank Carolina, Karina, and Luisa for all the back-end work, for all the formalization of this webinar series, as well as the drafting of the implementation plan. Thank you very much. We are very excited to have this opportunity to work with the University of Rosario. I'd now request Luisa to say a few words to end the meeting.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Malvika, for your generous words. We also would like to thank you and your team, the team of Jindal University, for facilitating this encounter that was really very fruitful and very important for us. I would like to thank you, Professors Rajkumar and Pulgarin, for their very interesting interventions, which have illustrated us about the multiple ways of cooperations between our institutions and our countries. You can count on our commitment in fostering our agreement and facilitating the different ways of collaboration, the 10 ways of collaborations that were mentioned before by Professor Rajkumar. And thank you also to all the participants in this meeting. It was very nice to have this possibility. And I wish you a very good night for all the people in India, and a good day for the people in Colombia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luisa, and of course, Sergio, and please convey my best wishes to your president and other faculty members. And of course, I want to thank my colleagues, Qasim and Srijit and Malvika, and many of you who put together this initiative. And I would like to assure you that you have my fullest support, and we will work together as a team to make things coming out of it. And I sincerely hope that when we overcome this whole COVID-19 situation, we will be able to welcome you to India.
Thank you.
And for all the faculty members who might visit India and Jindal, you can tell them that we will be taking them to the Taj Mahal, and that will be a mandatory visit which we will organize for your faculty members and students who will be visiting from your university, and it will be our pleasure to host all of you in India.
Great.
Thank you very much.
From my side, thank you very much too. We also expect to have the chance to having you here in our Cathedral of Salt, or Salt Cathedral, which actually is pretty amazing. Maybe you could try to find some pictures on the internet about the cathedral, right? We also are very excited to have the chance to have at least one initiative related with your 10 points.
Absolutely. Great.
Thank you.
This is actually what I got from myself from this meeting. Thank you very much again. And well, good evening for all of you.
Thank you. And take care and stay safe, and look forward to seeing you sooner than later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Same for you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.